All right, here we go for the next round of Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's magic. So this is chapter 6, part 2. At 6:30, Mrs. Rogers opened Sharon's door slowly and carefully. Then, guiding herself with his arm, he said, "Dinner is ready. You may give me one more kiss, careless Carrie, but be gentle and try not to black my eye or break my arm." Sharon gave her daddy a hug and said, "Oh, Daddy, I didn't mean to be so careless. I didn't mean to break Mrs. Green's glasses." He said, "I know you didn't, chickabiddy, but that doesn't help Mrs. Green see. You must learn to move more slowly, to look before you leap. You're only 8 years old, and I'd like to keep you for another 12 or 13 years at least, but at the rate you're breaking things, I won't be able to afford it. Let's see. Last week you broke 11 cups. There are 52 weeks in a year, and 52 times 11 is 572 cups a year. And we have at least 12 or more years to go. That would be like 6,864 cups. Wow. They went down to dinner, and Sharon was very careful and didn't jerk her chair or bang the table as she sat down. When she cleared off the table, she moved slowly and carefully and only spilled a little French dressing on her mother's lap. She continued to be careful while she was helping with the dishes, and as a result, didn't chip or break a single thing. When the last dish was dried and the towels were hung up, her mother gave her a kiss and said that she was awfully sorry about the mishap for this afternoon, and now to give her father a kiss and to hurry to her bed. Sharon was so happy that she had not been heedless that she rushed into the den to tell her father, forgot that the door stuck, gave it a hard jerk, slipped on the rug, fell against the whole table, and knocked over and broke the little red bowl of white hyacinths. Mrs. Rogers cried because the red bowl had been a wedding present. Mr. Rogers shouted because the carpenter who was supposed to fix that door charged so much and didn't do anything. And Sharon cried because her heedlessness was spoiled the whole evening for her mother and father. After Sharon had gone to bed, Mr. and Mrs. Rogers sat up very late, worrying about Sharon's heedlessness. Mrs. Rogers thought perhaps Sharon would have dancing lessons, should have dancing lessons to make her more graceful. Mr. Rogers thought she should have a sound spanking every time she broke anything. Mrs. Rogers thought that echolocation lessons are what Sharon needed to give herself some poise. Mr. Rogers thought Sharon should pay for everything she broke out of her 25 cents a week allowance. Mrs. Rogers wondered if Sharon's eyes needed to be tested. Mr. Rogers said that he thought a good spanking and paying for everything she broke was a solution. Mrs. Rogers said that she had heard that trouble with the inner ear affected children's balance. Perhaps this was a result of the chicken pox. Mr. Rogers said that as Sharon had had the pox 4 years ago and only had been heedless breaker for 2 weeks, he thought that theory was ridiculous. He thought that a good sound spanking, paying for everything broken, and not going into a moving picture show on Saturday afternoon was the answer. Now, when he was a boy, when he broke the little bucksaw that with which he had to saw great heaps of wood every single day after school, rain or snow, his father had made him pay for it all himself, and he had to earn the money after he sawed the wood. Mrs. Rogers said that she thought she would go to bed and read. Mr. Rogers said that was the trouble with Sharon. Mrs. Rogers refused to face the facts. The next morning, Sharon wakened to find sunbeams in her eyes and a fat robin singing in a tree outside her window and scolding her. Sharon said, "Oh, you darling robin, I'll get right up." She jumped out of bed, stared out the window, forgetting that the night before had been oiling to her roller skates, and had left them in a heap on the floor the night before in the middle of her room. The poor little robin was surprised and very scared when Sharon tripped over the roller skate and began banging against the window screen so hard she bulged in the right way. The robin flew away and Sharon began to cry, which was a very poor way to start a lovely spring day. When Sharon jumped into the shower without her shower cap and got her thick brown hair soaking, then she finally dressed and got ready for breakfast. She just happened to find her favorite old golf ball, and it gave it one bounce on the stairs, and it got away. Bounced all the way high and broke off three of the crystal danglers on the hall chandelier. Then she sat down for breakfast, forgetting about the table leg, in spite of having been told about it every single morning for 3 years. And when her knees hit the leg of the table, it jogged, and the table slopped and the orange juice. The coffee and the cream, and Mr. and Mrs. Rogers looked at each other. Sharon, very red in the face, began eating her cereal. When she finally left for school, after shaking a fountain pen all over the hall carpet and turning the house upside down looking for her library book, which was finally found all wrinkled and wet by the gate, Mr. Rogers said, I still think a paying for everything she breaks, and not going to the movies on Saturday is the answer. Mrs. Rogers said, if you tell me about that bucksaw, which your nasty, stingy father made you pay for once more, I'll scream. Mr. Rogers said stiffly, I had no intention of telling you about the bucksaw. I was going to ask you if you thought calling Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle to see if she had any suggestions for our curling little heatless breaker. Mrs. Rogers said, oh, Herbie, darling, of course, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Why didn't I think of that? She'll be sure to know something. Oh, you're so smart, dear. She gave Mr. Rogers a kiss and went beaming off to work. When Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle heard about Sharon's heedlessness, she said, oh, I have just the right thing for that. It's a magic powder which you sprinkle on the heedless breaker's bed. The magic powder will absorb during the night, and the next morning, when Miss Heedless Breaker gets out of bed, she will find that she can only move very, very slowly. I'll send you enough for 2 days, which should do the trick. Let's see, it's Thursday, so I'll send you the powder tomorrow afternoon. Goodbye, Mrs. Rogers, and don't worry. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle hung up. All right, so now we have a cure coming along. What do you think is going to happen? Make a prediction, and I'll see you next time.